All right. Welcome, everybody, to our first virtual Coffee with the President. We are really excited that you all have taken time out of your Saturday morning to come and hear more about what's going on at Methodist University. Some of you may have been here more recently than others, and so I wanted to kind of show you a glimpse of what campus looks like now, depending on how many years it's been. Since you graduated, I know the differences may be more than others, but we would love to have you back as soon as it is safe to do so. But in the meantime, we are grateful for technology and Zoom and all things virtual that allow us to reconnect. And if nothing else, we all have something in common, that we found Methodist and it found us, and that we're just grateful that everybody is here to be a part of it. And so before we get into it, I did want to talk about some housekeeping items. Following our virtual coffee this morning, we are gonna have an Alumni Association meeting, and everyone is welcome to stay for that. It'll be a part of this same Zoom, and so you don't have to go anywhere. It'll be right here, the same spot. Please, your audio right now is muted, but you are welcome to use the chat to be it anything that you say. If it says to everyone, then everyone can see that. If you change your to Kirby Dockery, you can send it to me directly, especially if you have questions while Dr. Worden is talking. Send those over to me and we'll make sure that we can try to answer as many as possible. And then feel free to reach out to your classmates, to people that you recognize on here, some bright shining faces this Saturday morning. So before I turn it over to him, I wanted to introduce Dr. Worden for those of you who haven't met him yet. He is our 5th president, and I would love to give bonus points to anybody who can name the first 4 presidents in the chat. So put that thinking cap on. He assumed his duties here at Methodist January 1st of 2019. Prior to coming to Methodist, he was the senior vice president and provost at Columbia College Chicago. He was also, before that, at Kent State University as a professor and then dean of the College of Communication. He earned his bachelor's degree from Wheeling Jesuit University in West Virginia, and then earned a master's from West Virginia University, and then his doctorate in mass communication research from UNC Chapel Hill. So Duke fans, don't hold it against him. We are grateful for his service already. He has made such a great impact here, and I will turn it over to him so that he can share more about what's going on here at Methodist.
Thank you, Kirby, and thank you all very much for joining us virtually on a Saturday morning. It's great to see you, and I appreciate you being with us today. Kirby, my virtual coffee is a little weak, but other than that, I'm glad to be here too. I want to tell you how much I am enjoying my time as president of Methodist University. This is my final career move. It is an incredible way to end my academic career. I am so thrilled to be here. A couple of years ago now, it's been almost, when I was being interviewed, the more I got to know Methodist University, the more I found myself falling in love with it. And when I came here with my wife for the sort of big event main interview, she fell in love with it too. And I have felt a sense of being called to be here. I feel very honored and privileged to be president of Methodist University. It's an amazing place, extraordinary faculty, really amazing students, unlike students I've seen anywhere else in my professional career. And I've had a long professional career. But there's a level of engagement, intelligence, commitment in the students at Methodist University that I simply haven't seen anywhere else. And that's a really impressive thing. And also, you know, the commitment of the faculty and staff here is extraordinary as well. So it's great to be here in spite of everything that's going on right now. This is really a wonderful place to be. I can't imagine any place better than Methodist University, and I'm really thrilled to be a monarch. So I've mentioned everything else that's going on. I'll talk about that just briefly, and I just want to make a few very brief remarks and then give you a chance to ask me questions if you have any. As you know, like every other university right now, we are trying to manage our way through COVID. It's been a challenge. Last fall, we found that we ended up having to send our students, last spring, we had to send our students home. We had to cancel our spring sports seasons. It was really very difficult. And we came back in the fall with plans to try to get through the semester. We moved the semester up a couple of weeks early so that we could finish Thanksgiving week, which is now just 4 weeks away. And it's been going really quite well. We had one minor scare when we had, within 48 hours, I mean, we've had all along 1 or 2 cases on campus, but within a 48-hour period, we went from 2 cases to 32 active cases and 50 people being quarantined because they had been exposed. And it was a little scary for all of us. There was a bit of time where I thought we were going to have to send everyone home, which was incredibly disappointing. But thanks to a great team here, really quick and careful contact tracing, we were able to identify the fact that it was limited to 3 residence halls. So we were able to send those students home for 2 weeks. They weren't happy about it, and I certainly understand that. But it allowed us to get the outbreak back under control. And you know, I'm going to say this with great humility because COVID can sneak up on you so quickly, but right now it's looking good for finishing the semester. I want to share my screen here. Is that working? No. All right, it's not going to. All right, so here we go. Can you see that? You can tell how technologically adept I am. So I wanted to just show you, if you ever want to know what's going on at Methodist University with regard to COVID, if you go to our main landing page, right up here at the top of the page, there's the Forward Together Coronavirus Resource Site. This has everything that we're doing with regard to COVID-19. It's got all kinds of information for students and parents, really very thorough, very comprehensive. And then there's one thing that is updated every single day, and that's our COVID-19 dashboard. So this shows that today on campus, we have 0 students in quarantine and 0 students in isolation. So the students in isolation would be those who have tested positive. So we have nobody positive on campus as of today, nobody on campus in quarantine as of today. The quarantine students are those who are close contact with people who have been diagnosed. We have 2 positive cases off campus and 1 in quarantine off campus, but the high likelihood is that those students were exposed off campus. Our students have been incredibly cooperative about social distancing, wearing masks, doing all the things that we need to do to keep the university open. And I've been really very happy about that. The other thing I wanted to mention about COVID before I move on is that we also unfortunately had to stop our fall sports season. The presidents of the USA South met multiple times through the summer and early fall, and based on NCAA protocols and our own assessment of the situation, we decided to suspend all fall sports until spring semester. So we're hoping that we can get the fall sports in the spring. So much is going to depend on what happens with COVID over the next few months. So now I've got to figure out how to unshare my screen. Stop share, there we go.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm getting good at this. So I wanted to talk a little bit about other things that are going on. So the other sort of crisis that we're dealing with right now is that we are in a very, very tense election season. There's a lot of student anxiety about the election outcome. You know, students of all political persuasions are concerned about what's going to happen. So I just wanted to let you know that we have set up a really comprehensive plan for just helping the students feel calm. We've identified more than 20 faculty members who are going to be wearing buttons around campus that say HEAR, H-E-R-E, to HEAR, H-E-A-R. And the idea is that students can just seek them out and talk to them about how they're feeling about the election. And they'll be all over campus the entire week of election, because it's going to probably take several days before the results actually come in. They're not going to express any political opinions of their own. The idea is just to listen, to have a chance to hear what students are thinking, what they're concerned about, what they're worried about, but also to give the students some reassurance that the United States has been through tense elections before. I'm old enough that I've been through some of them myself. These students are young people. They've never seen anything like the level of political tension that we have right now. And we just want to reassure them that things are actually going to be okay. We've been through things like this before. We've gotten through it. American democracy is very strong and it always prevails in the end. And we just want to make sure that the students are reassured of that. We'll also have extra counselors on duty. We'll have extra residence hall staff on duty. And we also are going to have extra university police on duty. Not that we're expecting anything on campus, but we do want to make sure that we protect our students from anybody from outside of campus who might come onto campus that week. And our campus police here are very good at just kind of talking with students and helping them stay calm. So we're going to manage our way through that too, and I'm very optimistic about it. We haven't lost sight of the need to move the university forward strategically either, and I'll just tell you a few things that are happening. We are going to launch our Methodist University online programs this January. They were delayed by a semester because of coronavirus, but we now have about 40 students who are signed up, and there will be more who sign up in the next 2 months between now and the beginning of the classes. So we're excited about that, taking the Methodist University mission and high quality education and the Methodist University brand to a whole new group of students who are adult learners, many of them in the military or military related family members, many of them who can't come to campus because they have families, they have jobs, maybe they live some distance away. So this is an opportunity for us to reach that new market with online programming. We're moving forward on a massive project to improve student retention and student graduation rates. And we've partnered with an outside company that has done this for about 15 different faith-based universities. They actually are very selective about who they'll partner with. They really only want to do it with universities that show a genuine commitment to student success. And we're anticipating seeing our graduation rate and retention rate go up over the next few years. It's a 6-year partnership that we're entering into. You know, the bottom line is that we're here to graduate students with degrees out into the world. And every student we don't retain, every student we don't graduate, I consider to be a failure on our part. So we really want to address that. We want to get those rates up much higher than they are now. And that's also part of the idea of Methodist University Online. We have about 1,500 people who have left the university in the last 10 years without completing a degree. And so one of the things that we will be offering online is a kind of Bachelor of Professional Studies. It's going to be called Bachelor of Leadership and Ethics, and that will be launched next fall. But that is designed for our alumni who never actually graduated, to help them finish a degree. It'll be at a lower cost. We'll count all the credits that they took before, and we're hoping that we can help some former students finish those degrees and be in a better position in terms of their future and their careers and their earning potential and all of those things. We've partnered with 6 community colleges in the area to make transfer a lot easier than it's been. And that's going really well. And we're going to assign a full-time staff member to just work with those community colleges and with those students so that they can easily come to Methodist University after they finish their associate's degree. And we have made a lot of progress in our outreach to and building relationships with Fort Bragg, with veterans, and with military families. One of the biggest things that we've done is I asked the staff to identify military training programs that we could award academic credit for. The universities that are doing best with the military have done that. And we now have identified 615 credits of Methodist University courses that can be equated with military training credits of different kinds. And that's all posted online in a site that we use for transfer students. It's called Transferology. Students who are coming to Methodist University can go to our admissions website, they can click on transferology, and they can see all of the equivalencies. So they'll know that, you know, if I got training in leadership in the military, that counts as this course at Methodist University. So that will save these students time and money in completing a Methodist University degree. And that will help us, again, it'll help us serve the military, it'll help us reach a new market. It is good for the students and it's good for us as a university. The last thing that I want to talk about, and I'm going to ask Kirby to share her screen for this, is we've had several big capital projects that we are either finished with or nearing completion, all but one of which have been funded through gifts and grants. So Kirby, if you could go to the first one there, the cafeteria. This is the green and gold cafeteria. This is not a rendering, this is an actual photograph. We did a $1.2 million renovation to the cafeteria, all funded by gifts and by a grant from the Cannon Foundation. It looks amazing. It has really brought the cafeteria up to 21st century dining standards. It's allowed us to open new kinds of innovative food stations for the students. It is really just an amazing job. I couldn't be happier with the way it turned out. The only thing I'm unhappy with is that we're not actually able to dine there right now because of COVID. Students are picking up their meals to go. But at least we've got this done. Once we can resume dining in person, I think the students are going to enjoy this much more. It's brighter than it was before in terms of the lighting, which you can see here, in terms of the color scheme. It's really quite nice, and I'm really pleased with it. And, you know, it's not a huge thing, but these kinds of things help us to keep students in school. When you can make something as basic as the dining experience more pleasant for the students, they're more likely to stay with us. Let's go to the next one, Kirby. Many of you, I'm sure, are familiar with the ravine that we have had on this campus for many, many years. And it was beginning to threaten the McLean Residence Hall. It was also beginning to threaten the structural integrity of some of the buildings on the golf course. It had to be addressed. We could not put it off any longer. So we did a $1.9 million renovation of the ravine. Now, a lot of this did come out of Methodist University operating funds, but it needed to be done. This was something that, as president, I simply could not allow to wait any longer. We hired a really top-rated environmental engineering firm that designed the renovation in a way that is environmentally friendly, and it's basically guaranteed to last forever. And so if you look at this picture, you can see the Player Center Bridge in the foreground. That's the bridge over to the Player Center, the golf center. And then you're looking toward the railroad tracks here. What used to be a ravine is now spread out as a shallow floodplain. We have a meandering stream that goes through it. We're going to plant a lot of trees and shrubbery as part of this, but we're waiting until January and February when it's a better planting season for new trees and new shrubs. In the stream, what you can't see are a lot of boulders and logs that kind of cause the stream to meander more and help. There are going to be a series of small waterfalls all through it. And it really already has beautified the campus. And as you can see, it's opened up the view from the softball field and the baseball field over to the golf course. It's really very pretty. And Kirby, if you could show the other direction on this too. So this is now looking up toward the McLean Apartments and up toward the rest of campus here. And again, you can see that this is nicely just opened up. It's created a really broad floodplain, so we won't have the creek carving into our land and creating another ravine again. It will help us much better handle the potential flooding that we can get from hurricanes and that sort of thing. We've jokingly said that now that the dorm rooms in McLean some of them are facing the golf course, we may have to charge a little bit more for room and board in those rooms because it's just such a beautiful view. But we did get a $400,000 grant from the Clean Water Fund to help with this. So that brought our costs down to $1.5 million, and we are in the process of applying for another $400,000 grant for this. So it will bring down our costs quite a bit, but it's not going to cover the whole thing. But again, this was responsible management. This just absolutely needed to be done. It was a safety issue. You can see over there on the right how close that old ravine was to McLean. I mean, that's about 9 feet away there, and all it was going to take was one more hurricane to undercut the foundation of that residence hall, and we simply could not allow that to happen. Let's move on, Kirby. I can't show the whole golf course, but for quite a while now, we have been talking about the need to lengthen the course. The PGA has changed its requirements for the length of a course for the player ability test, the PAT, and we were out of compliance. They were letting us kind of fudge this a little bit by allowing us to replay a hole, but they told us that we couldn't do this forever. So this was entirely funded by gifts. We have now extended the course. It now meets the PAT requirements. It's really quite lovely. We've done some work on tee boxes. Here, this is the first fairway. We've moved the green. So there's a new green there that you can see labeled as new green, hole 1. What used to be a par 4 fairway is now a par 5, and we've lengthened some other ones as well to be in compliance with the PAT, and just beautified the golf course some as well. This is in keeping with the master plan that we have had all along. We hired a really well-known golf course architect to lead this project, and this is pretty much done now. Over there on the right, you can see some work that a utility company had to do along the railroad track. That is going to be restored soon. The utility company has given us about $90,000 to do that restoration. So all of this has been done with external gifts. We also changed the driving range and really made it a lot nicer than it was before too. So this is going to help us recruit students, retain students, and it's just another thing that beautifies our campus. Let's go on now to the last one, Kirby. So it's a little hard to see. By the way, these pictures were shot with a new drone that our University Advancement Office purchased. So all of these aerial views are done with this new drone that wasn't very expensive, but it gives us these really cool aerial views of the campus. But this is the soccer stadium. And I don't know if you remember it, but it used to be bleachers that we would kind of tip over on their sides when games weren't being played. There were no bathrooms, so people had to go over to the business school to go to the bathroom. There were no concessions at all. And what you can see here is bleachers that now will hold 250 people. These are permanent bleachers. They have backs on them. They're really nice. You can see there's lighting here, which has been there for a couple of years now. All the land to the left and right of the bleachers will be graded so people can bring their own chairs, which a lot of soccer parents like to do. And then over on the right, it's a little hard to see, but there's a new ticketing area, concession area, and bathrooms. So there are now women's and men's bathrooms there. We'll be able to sell snacks and drinks there. We'll be able, for ticketed events, we'll have a ticket office there. There's some things that haven't been completed quite yet. There's going to be an archway over on the right there where those cars are. It'll be an archway that you enter to come into the stadium. And there's going to be a really nice decorative fence all along the road there that is aluminum and not particularly expensive, but it looks like wrought iron. It's really very pretty. So now with the McLean Health Sciences Center, with Stout Hall, the entryway into the campus has really been transformed, and it's just a lot prettier now. Over the years, that work has been done and done really well, and I'm really pleased with this. We got one final gift that put us over the top for what we needed on this. You can see that it's going to be named after that individual. What you can't see is the old, I don't know what you call it, the old sort of field house press box. It's still there. Duggins' name will be on that. And then over on the left, that where you turn in to go to McLean, There will be a kind of a monument sign that says Duggan Soccer Stadium on it as well. And it's all very tasteful, very nice. I'm really happy with this. So that is what we've been doing here. There's actually a lot more that we've been doing, but I just tried to hit the high points, and really happy to answer any questions that you might have, or just listen to any comments that you might have. And enjoy your virtual coffee.
Yes, as a reminder, if you have any questions, please drop them in the chat so that I can share them. You kind of touched on it, Dr. Worden, but one was about how COVID has accelerated the technology and digital investments for the school, and how that has accelerated virtual and distance learning strategies going forward.
Yeah, that's a great question. We were in the process, when you do online learning, you have to use something called an LMS, which stands for Learning Management System. A lot of you may be familiar with that already. And we had a very outdated one here before that we were using, and the faculty were actually using it amazingly effectively given how outdated it was. We brought in a new system called Canvas, which is the state-of-the-art system. It is the best system available. It's actually less expensive than the old system that we had. Because it's all cloud-based, so it doesn't require all the servers and so forth that we needed before. It usually takes 12 months to implement Canvas. Our faculty implemented Canvas in 2 months over the summer. I mean, it's amazing. I have never seen anything like this in my entire career, and I've been involved with online learning for a long time. For about 10 years now, I've been engaged in online learning. To do what they did in 2 months was remarkable. And they set it up so that every single class we offer is available both in person and online. So right now we've got, we're still doing everything in person right now, but there are some students who can't come to campus because they themselves are at risk. So they're able to take the classes online along with the students who are taking the classes in person. Students who get sick with COVID can take their classes from their isolation rooms and not miss a beat with the classes. Faculty who are at risk can teach online, and it's really been quite remarkable. It's also made us aware, though, of some other weaknesses we have with our network and with our data security on campus. So I hired a woman who was the chief information officer both at the University of New Hampshire and at Michigan State University. And I hired her on a 9-month basis to come in as an interim chief information officer and help us see what we need to do to improve technology and data security on campus. And one quick win that we discovered, so we have 2 data centers on campus, one in the services building where the police department is, and one in the library basement. It's good that we have that redundancy, but they're within a quarter mile of each other. So really, if one goes down, they both go down. It's just, there's not sufficient backup there. We also don't have generators. We don't have fire suppression. We don't have all of the basic things you need for data security. And this new interim CIO has identified an outside firm where we can move all of our servers, put them in a secure cage there. And actually, the cost savings on electricity alone will pay for storing all of our data off-site, which is really the way most companies now and universities are doing this. This company also has a backup storage system in Atlanta. So, what they say now is that you should have your main storage off campus and a backup storage at least 100 miles away from that, so that if a hurricane hits one, it's not likely to hit them both. So we'll be doing that within the next few months as well. And making some other technology changes too. So we've really accelerated technology, and COVID has played a big role in that.
Thank you. We also had a question about that maybe you could give an update on the racial healing task force that you created.
Yeah, that's a great question. And just want to talk a little bit about what that is all about, because there's been some confusion about it. There are a lot of things going on campus right now with regard to racial justice. As you can imagine, our students are paying attention to what's going on nationally. They're talking about it. They're looking at what we're doing and asking us what we're going to do. There have been a couple of very peaceful, silent protests. The football team did one. Greek Life did one. They were very respectful. I mean, only at Methodist University would students ask permission to do a protest and ask me how they could do it. I mean, if I were president anywhere else, I'd look out my window one day and there'd be students picketing out in front of my office. But here at Methodist, our students are they're so engaged with the university, they don't want to do anything that will hurt the university. But they do want to express themselves. That has nothing to do with the task force, however. So, I don't want to miss this moment in American history. I don't want to look back in 5 years and say there was all this stuff going on, and I really didn't even do anything to see if we have a problem at Methodist University. So the task force is really about studying racial equality, racial fairness in our courses and in our policies, racial equity on our campus, just to find out how are we doing. Are we fine, or are there some things that need to be fixed? And so we've done a lot in the last 2 months just to kind of get the task force up and running. Next month, we're going to be beginning a series of focus groups with students and a survey that will go out to all of our students, just asking them questions about their experience with issues related to race on campus. Good experiences, bad experiences, anything they want to tell us about it, so that we can see if there are issues that we need to address. We're doing this through the lens of our mission. I have made it very clear that we are not aligning ourselves with any movement, nationally or locally. We are not aligning ourselves with any politics, nationally or locally. Our mission says that we are about truth, justice, virtue, and love. And we are doing it through that loving lens. We are being very, very inclusive. We want everyone to have a say in this, whatever their race might be, whatever their political views might be. We want them to have a chance to just talk about their experiences. We are doing this as an educational institution, so we're trying to learn what we can about our students' experience on campus. And then we'll teach the community what we have learned. So it's a teaching and learning experience. If we find problems, we will then fix those problems. But we're not going into this with any assumptions. We're going into this as a careful examination. It's the right thing to do, especially with all the racial tension in the world right now and in our country right now. It's also good customer service. We know that our minority students are graduating at a rate 20 percentage points lower than our white students. We don't entirely know why that's happening, but we want to make sure that we're serving all of our students. We want to make sure that our students have an equal opportunity to graduate from Methodist University. We don't want any group to be left behind, whether it's on the basis of race or age or nationality or, gender, anything. We want everybody to have an equal opportunity and for this to be a level and fair playing field here. And so that's what the task force is all about.
Thanks. It may come out of the task force, but I did have a follow-up question that asked if there was any plan to hire a chief diversity officer or a VP of diversity and inclusion or any kind of staffing in that way.
Yeah, we are talking about that. I've had good and bad experiences with having a chief diversity officer. One institution, I won't name institutions because I don't want to be criticizing a place where I used to work. I just don't think that's right. But one institution where I worked hired a really great chief diversity officer and then dumped the whole responsibility on that person and ignored it after that. And she was frustrated all the time. She couldn't get anybody to work with her. They just wanted to check the box. And so if we're going to do this, it can't be a check the box experience. At another institution where I worked, we decided to make the chief diversity officer a dean rather than a vice president, because we realized that it's really the deans and the faculty who have an impact on what's happening on campus. They have the biggest impact on what's happening on campus, and that's where most of the investment is made. And that ended up being really, really successful. It ended up opening a great campus-wide conversation. It was very inclusive. It was a really healthy thing. And it really brought about some transformation to the campus. And it really it really brought people together, which I thought was a wonderful thing. It really brought people together across racial groups. It really did heal some racial tensions that had existed on that campus. And so whatever we do here, I want it to be a healing experience and not a divisive experience.
Sure. Knowing that Methodist is a tuition-driven institution, what is the university's kind of sustainability plan or long-term plan to balance declining enrollment on top of the pandemic?
Yeah, that's also a great question, and something that I wake up thinking about at 3 o'clock almost every morning. So we're really attacking this problem on several fronts. One is we will, of course, continue to really aggressively recruit our traditional college-age students. But that by itself is not going to be enough, because the birth rate in the United States began to decline about 20 years ago, and it has continued to decline since then. And so we have begun to see now, just within the last couple of years, the beginning of a steep decline in college-age people, a steep decline in the numbers of high school graduates. So you've got basically the same number of colleges and universities competing for a slice of a much smaller pie. And that pie will get smaller and smaller over time. So that just focusing on that will not be sustainable. So that's why we launched Methodist University Online. We want to open ourselves up to new markets. As I said before, Methodist University Online is really targeting adult learners. It's targeting people who didn't quite finish their college degree, whether at Methodist or somewhere else, but also people who never started a college degree and just can't come to a campus to do it. It will be beneficial to military students as well, and to military affiliated students. I mentioned the community colleges initiative. More and more students are starting out in community colleges because it's less expensive that way. We have not been particularly transfer friendly here, so we're changing that. And as I said, we have these 6 partnerships now. We are streamlining it so that students from these 6 partner institutions can do 2 years at the community colleges, 2 years at Methodist University, and they're done. And I can tell you this is a new thing. It wasn't uncommon for a student to put in 2 years at a community college and still have to do 4 years at MU to be able to get a degree, because we weren't accepting transfer credits for things that were clearly equivalent. But the faculty have made a lot of progress. They've begun to realize that actually the quality of education being provided at community colleges has gotten much, much better in recent years. So that's another area where we're looking at this. I mentioned the military related piece of this as well. We want to be as military friendly as we can be. We're going to be offering more and more things out at Fort Bragg, and accepting more and more credit for military training. We're also beginning to do things to monetize our land to generate revenue from other sources. So on Monday, the Fayetteville City Council will vote on a proposal to lease what we've been calling the Jordan Soccer Complex from Methodist University for $90,000 a year for the next 5 years. So over a 5-year period, we're going to be making about $500,000 on that. Both parties have the ability to extend the lease every 5 years after that, and there's an escalator built into the contract. So if in 5 years the city and Methodist want to extend the lease for another 5 years, the lease will go up to $100,000. And it continues to escalate on a 5-year basis after that. So, we used to make $1 a year for that 33 acres of land. It wasn't a great deal financially for the university. I think the idea was that having the soccer complex there was going to help us recruit students, but it never really had that impact. So now we're making some money on that land, and we are looking at other ways as well. And then building the endowment. I was telling Faculty Senate yesterday, if you compare us to Campbell University, universities typically can take about 4.5% of their endowment and plow that back into the operating budget. That figure is set by the trustees, but something in the neighborhood of 5% is pretty standard across the country. And bond rating agencies don't like you to go any higher than that. So it hurts your bond rating if you do. So our endowment right now is at $21 million. So 5% of that is roughly $500,000 a year that in theory could go back into our operating budget. Campbell University, which has been working on building its endowment for a lot longer than we have, has a $124.6 million endowment, which means that they can put about $5 million a year from their endowment back into their operating budget. So what does that mean? That means they don't have to discount to fund scholarships like we do. They actually have money to fund scholarships that goes back into the endowment. It means they can take risks on new programs because they've got some money for experimentation with new programs. And if they don't work out, they don't have to worry about losing money. Whereas if we start a new program here, we have to be really sure it's going to succeed financially or it hurts us financially. It means that they've got a lot of contingency money if something goes wrong, like a ravine. So, that's why we hired Greg Swanson. I can tell you he's already having success in building that endowment. Greg, what are we up percentage-wise compared to last year, just in 1 year's time?
300%, actually.
300% on giving to the endowment since this time last year. So we're not going to be at $100 million anytime soon. That takes time. But you've got to start somewhere, and for the good of the university, we must build the endowment, and that's one of our goals as well. I told Greg that I do have a goal of a $100 million endowment. I know that won't happen in 5 years, might happen in 10 years, but we have to have a goal, and we have to go after that goal. So that's another way that we'll be addressing this as well.
Thank you. I want to have a few questions here just to get to know you a little better as we are kind of coming to an end here, but people are still welcome to send in other questions as we're going through. But can you tell us about what made it, when did you decide you wanted to be president of a university? What made that appealing to you in your career?
Yeah, I want to tell you, I was strictly faculty and no administrative role at all for 20 years. And my dad was a dean and held some other administrative roles in his career. And I told him, I will never be an administrator, no way. And then shortly after I became a full professor, my dean at that time asked me if I would just for 1 year take over as interim director of a school in that college at Kent State University that had some trouble and where the faculty had a lot of respect for me, and he thought that I could fix things there. And I loved it. I couldn't believe how much fun I had doing that. It was challenging every day, but it was fun. So I did that for 5 years, and then I became a dean. And when I was dean, in my second year, the president called me to his office. That's always a little scary when you're a dean. And he said, I just wanted you to know that of all of our deans, I think you have the greatest potential to be a president someday. And that kind of shocked me. I really had never thought about being a university president, but that's when I first started thinking about it. But one of the things that I began to realize right away was I did not want to be president at a place like Kent State University. Kent State has 45,000 students on 8 campuses. There's no way the president can know all the faculty, all the staff, let alone all of the students. I went to a small liberal arts school, and I knew that I wanted to be president, if I was ever president, at a liberal arts school. So that was the first thing that I knew. I wanted to be at a place where I could actually know the students, know the faculty, and know the staff, where I could walk across campus and a student would know who I was. At Kent State University, I used to give quizzes where I'd ask who's the president, and like 2 out of 20 students would know the answer to that question. Sometimes I even had pictures of like the president, a dean, a professor, and said, which one is the president? And they would never get it right. They had no idea who the president was. So I didn't want to be in a place like that. I also wanted to be in a faith-based school. My own undergraduate education is liberal arts. It's faith-based. It was a Catholic school. I am a member of the United Methodist Church, though, so it was appealing to me to be at a Methodist school. So when the time came, when I went into Columbia College Chicago, they brought me in to develop and implement a new strategic plan. And I asked for a 5-year contract, and I said, I will do this for you in 5 years, but after that, I want to move on. So I did what I told him that I would do. And I started looking in my 5th year there. And this position came open that year, and I was contacted by a search firm, the search firm that handled this search. And I was really excited by the idea that this was Methodist University, although I have to confess, I didn't really know much about Methodist University at that time. So I started looking into it, doing a lot of research, and I decided I am going to apply for this job. I also was in the running for another job in North Carolina at another faith-based school. I was in the running for a job in Hawaii, where I was actually a finalist. I was in the running for a job in New Jersey, where I was a finalist. Thank God I didn't get that one. So I had some other options. It wasn't like this was my only option. And the more I read about MU and the more I looked at the website, the more I thought, this really sounds like a cool place. One of the first things I noticed was this amazing mission statement. I mean, I've never seen a mission statement that talks about love as part of the mission of a university. It was extraordinary to me. And I thought there's so much that's being done here already and so much potential for the future. And it's not just another liberal arts school. Our mission sets us apart from every other liberal arts school I've ever seen. And we're not just a liberal arts school anyway. We've got all these great health sciences programs and other professional programs. So we've got this great balance. And then I came down for a preliminary interview. It was a 2-hour interview. It was actually held out at the country club. And I got to meet some students and faculty and some board members. And they were amazing people. Their level of commitment to Methodist really hit me. I've worked with a lot of boards before, and the level of engagement and knowledge that these board members had about MU really showed me that this is a cool place with a lot of potential. And I drove over afterward to the campus and drove around, and I sent my wife a bunch of pictures, and I said, you're not going to believe how beautiful this place is. And I said, I feel like I have to get this job one way or another. I mean, what I've seen already, this is exciting. And then she and I both came down for the big 2-day interview, and she got very excited about it too, just meeting people, driving around, seeing the city of Fayetteville. And, you know, I just felt like I was getting drawn in more and more and more. And I really had this feeling of being called to this job and this place. But Deborah and I both had that feeling that we were called to be here. And I feel, I get a little choked up when I think about it, but I feel very honored to be here, and I'm just loving it. And I feel like I've finally found my home.
That's awesome. What have you learned about Methodist in your 2 years here that you didn't know when you accepted that calling?
Well, I certainly didn't know we were going to be having a pandemic. That caught me by surprise. And I've teased the trustees that they didn't show me the ravine until my first visit back after I signed my contract. And at that time, Mac Healy, who's the board chair now, and Mary Lynn Bryan, who was the previous board chair, took me down to see the ravine, and it scared the heck out of me. When I saw how close it was to some of our buildings, and I realized one way or another, I'm going to have to find the money to fix this, because this is not sustainable to have this way. I didn't really know what to expect completely from the students here. You know, I've worked with students for, well, it's now 38 years I've worked with students. And, you know, the students at Kent State, the students at Columbia College Chicago, I also taught as a graduate student at UNC Chapel Hill and at West Virginia University. They're all different. Student cultures are different in different places. What has really amazed me here is students are friendly, truly, genuinely friendly. I mean, students will make a point of stopping me to talk to me as I'm walking across campus to get a cup of coffee or something. They know who I am, and they're excited to see me. They're engaged. I mean, almost every student on this campus is in multiple clubs, sports teams. I mean, I've never seen a student body that is as involved as this student body. And then they really take being monarchs very seriously. I mean, they're committed to this place. As I said before, they don't want to do anything to hurt this place. And they're actively working to do what they can do to make Methodist University better even as students. I meet once a week with the president of the Student Government Association. I've never seen a president meet once a week with the head of the Student Government Association. Students usually just not interested in that. And we talk about all kinds of things, from where we can improve lighting to places where shrubs need to be trimmed back to make the campus safer, to the task force on racial healing. But it's just a great conversation, a great opportunity for me to get to know the students. And then the last thing is just the level of commitment of faculty and staff here, the degree to which they truly, genuinely care about the students is like nothing I've ever seen too. So it's an amazing place. And as I get to know the alumni, you're pretty amazing people as well.
Well,
Kirby.
our final question of the day is, you think about everything that you still want to accomplish here. What are some ways that alumni can help with that? How can alumni be engaged? What can they do to help Methodist and achieve the goals?
Yeah, that's a great question as well. I mean, you know, obviously right now it's a little difficult to come and visit us, but this will end. And I really encourage you to just come back to your alma mater and just check us out. And if you're going to be here, give me a call or send me an email before you come so we can really have coffee together and get to know each other a little bit. But just walk around the campus and take a look at how things are going here. Talk to the students. If you get an opportunity to talk to a class and tell them about your experiences as a student and your professional experiences since you left here, that's really valuable to students. And it's reassuring to them that they really are in a good place that's going to help them out. When they see successful alumni, they feel much more confident. And encourage them to be engaged as alumni in the same ways that you are. Tell them that, you know, MU has done something for you, and the MU alumni right now are doing things to help you. So when you become an alum, think about what you can give back to Methodist University at that point in time. And then anything that you can give monetarily is helpful. You know, if you can give to the loyalty campaign, if you can give to the endowment, if you can give, we have something called a last dollar fund that I set up to help students who are in good academic standing, but they just don't have quite enough money to stay in school. And this is for juniors and seniors who just need a little bit more help to get over the hump and stay in school and graduate. That's a great fund to give to as well, because it goes directly to the students. So, you know, any ways that you can give back monetarily are helpful. And then, of course, being involved in the Alumni Association, you know, letting me know your ideas for making this place better and what you loved the most about it and what you hope will continue as part of the Monarch tradition here is helpful to me too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I just really appreciate your time and coming and having coffee with all of us today. It was great for us to be able to spend some more time with you and hear more about your vision and where you'd like to see Methodist go.
Well, I've enjoyed this a lot. I so wish we could actually be doing this in person. It's just so much nicer when you can actually be physically present with people and shake their hand. And I just feel like you get to know people a little better that way. But as I said, we'll get there. I have every confidence. This is a great country. We've overcome huge obstacles before. We won a couple of world wars. We've done much bigger things than overcome this pandemic, and we're going to overcome this as well. And then we're going to be able to get back together in person, and I hope to see you again then too. But thanks so much for joining me today. I'm not going to be able to stay for the Alumni Association meeting because I've got something right after this, but I've really enjoyed the time with you today, and looking forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.
Thank you so much.